Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilde's with us. And I got to start by saying our guy, Nick, I'm happy for him because he's a happy guy this morning as his Lakers pulled off the impossible, the improbable, pulling off the upset of all upsets this weekend, somehow outlasting the Portland Trail Blazers. I mean, we never quite got a prediction from Wildes, but we'll probably get one today. But Nick,
I was nervous.
Congratulations, buddy. Sweating profusely. We'll get to the Lakers game in a second. We got to start this morning, though, with a little Clippers and Mavericks, Game 6. L.A. with a chance to close out the series. Dallas without Kristaps Porzingis again. So it fell on Luka to carry the Mavs, and he certainly did his part. 38-9-9 for Luka. Not enough, though. Clippers winning behind Kawhi Leonard. 33 points, 14 boards for Kawhi. As the Clippers move on, they now await the winner of the Nuggets Jazz series. But let's focus on this one for a sec. Nick, what did Kawhi and the Clippers prove by closing out the Dallas Mavericks in 6 games?
Well, to me, Jenna, those are two very different questions. Kawhi once again confirmed he is year in, year out, one of the best and most consistent playoff performers in the league. He picked up exactly where he left off last postseason in this series. And if it wasn't for what Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell and Luka and LeBron have done in the first round, I think more people would be focused with, like, wait, what did Kawhi average? 33, 10, and 5 on better than 50% shooting for the series. He was great. So he confirmed what he has been showing over the last 4 years when he's healthy. He's one of the best playoff performers in basketball. The rest of the Clippers, on the other hand, Brandon, didn't show me much. Paul George, after his breakout Game 5, was bad again. The Clippers, even when Kristaps misses the second half of this series, and the only real threat you have is Luka, they can't slow him down, and Marcus Morris continues to, well, be Marcus Morris. So, like, very impressed by Kawhi. But the Clippers as a whole, Brandon, I thought, pardon me, were B-ish in the series.
It's too early to be talking about Marcus Morris right now. Give my guy a break. I know you covered him when he was in diapers, but leave him alone. To me, this series was all about all the other headlines outside of Kawhi. You are right there, Nick. That fourth quarter reminded all of us who Kawhi Leonard is. When I was watching that fourth quarter, I just had to go back and look at the stat sheet. I mean, this guy started the series with 29 points. And then he followed it up with 35, and then a 36, then 32, 32, and he ended the series with 33 points. And while he was diving on the floor and playing lights-out defense, this guy definitely picked up what you said, Nick, where he was last year in the postseason, that championship run. Kawhi Leonard needs to be talked about more, but I get it. I understand. We were talking about PG. We were talking about Luka and how amazing he is. He's the face of the NBA. And even through Marcus in there, it's time for us to give this guy respect and continue to talk about how awesome he is. Kawhi Leonard, best guy on the court right now.
Nick, I'll throw it to you in a second, but I don't know if you like Kawhi Leonard. Like, sometimes we come on this show and you say things like, I don't even know if Kawhi Leonard likes playing basketball. And other times you give him like these like kind of compliments. Like, if we weren't talking about Luka and Donovan and Jamal Murray and LeBron and Damian Lillard, we'd be talking about Kawhi. It's like kind of a, do you really like Kawhi or do you not like Kawhi?
Listen,
are you just talking about Kawhi because we got at the top of the show?
Listen, no, I have a tremendous respect for Kawhi Leonard as a basketball player when he plays. I got 2 issues with Kawhi. One is not his fault, one is his fault. The one that is not his fault is he was anointed best player in the NBA status by some after the Raptors beat a beat-up Warriors team. And that, to me, was not only an insult to LeBron, it was an insult to Kevin Durant, it was an insult to Giannis. Some could argue it was an insult to James Harden, guys who had been performing at that level year in, year out. But the real, I guess, agitation that is caused to me by Kawhi over the course of the season is I think the way Kawhi Leonard treats the regular season is dangerous for the health of a league I love, Wilds. I think that if the Clippers, I don't think they will, but if they win the title, then it just further confirms, you know what? Who cares about the regular season? Who cares if guys play more than 65 games? It's not good for the health of the league. So I'm not a fan of that. But nobody denies his overall talent level unless you are trying to anoint him. You know, Colin Cowherd says if he wins the title, he's top 5 all time.
Season.
That is...
No one plays in a regular season,
not
whether it's load management. Yes, it's very true. Whether it's load management or if it's the first half of the season, nobody's playing defense until after the All-Star break. So I just don't get this thing. Like, you know, this is modern sports. You got to take care of guys.
So just real quick, Wilds, even if we're saying the level of intensity is ratcheted up in the postseason, particularly on the defensive end, even though we're not seeing it this year thus far, I agree with that. But other guys play. Like this is the load management with Kawhi is a very specific thing that just irks me. So that's what it is. It's not that I dislike him, and he's been brilliant.
No, I get
Wilds, I said it to start. Like he carried a Clippers team that otherwise this series was not that impressive. Wilds.
Yeah, but do you have an issue with like he did everything better in the playoffs? His minutes went up, his points went up, his assists went up, his field goal percentage went up, his attempts went up. So if you say, hey, he's been great, I have an issue with how he plays in the regular season, but if the reason he's been great is because he's been load managing, it's because he's been saving up, does that make your point null and void, or does that recontextualize your criticism of how he handles the regular season?
Preach,
no, because the idea, but Brandon, here's the thing. The greatest players in basketball, their numbers go up in the postseason.
What is it about? Is it about entertaining you, or is it about winning championships? If it was your Lakers, is it about entertaining you throughout the regular season, or is it about winning the championship?
To me, it's a false choice. And I hate that listen, I'm not trying to attack Kawhi right now. I said he was outstanding. He's been one of the 5 best players in the playoffs thus far. But to me, it's a false choice because we have all these other guys who play for the 90% of regular season games and still see their numbers go up in the postseason, still get to another level in the postseason. The idea that you have to do it this way, maybe he does because he has a condition with his quad. I don't know. I know they went into the year saying this was the healthiest he had felt his whole career. So it didn't fit with me when he was sitting out games by Halloween. But I want to say again, Jenna, he's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
He has been unbelievable.
No, I know, and you've been
the rest of his team was not great.
No, and I agree, and you have been saying that. All right, I want to jump back in and talk about the game. One of the headlines coming out of this one was that ongoing feud between Luka and Marcus Morris. Look, it was brewing the whole series. It boiled over on that play right there after Morris knocks Luka to the floor in the first quarter. Subsequently ejected on the play. Listen to Luka talk about it after the game.
I'm gonna say it's 2 games in a row we did something like that. And I really didn't. I hope so. The first game it wasn't on purpose, but looking back at the fall this game, you know what I think. So I don't want to deal with that kind of players. Just move on.
I love the Belichick cutoff hoodie there. Morris took to Instagram after the game, responding very simply with "Cry me a river, clips and 6." All right, Nick, what'd you make of the play? You were all fired up on Twitter last night. All fired up.
Yeah, well, and I mean, by the way, props to Marcus Morris and for the clips and 6. You took 6 games to beat a team whose second best player played 10 quarters in the series with 2 versus 7. You should be very, very proud of all the hard work you did in the series. But Brandon, I rest my case, man. You were out here defending Marcus Morris for what he was this an accident too? Or are you going to explain how this is just, like, come on. He revealed himself. If you didn't already see it, now you've seen it. Go ahead.
Nick, neither of us made it to the NBA, but we both played ball growing up. Right. And you know this. And I can go back to my time when I started back in Orlando, Florida in 2000, walking into Lake Howe High School gymnasium. Coach Cone, one of the most prominent basketball coaches in the history of Florida high school basketball, pulled me to the side and he said, Brandon, I know you can shoot the three. Brandon, I know you love basketball, but if you want to win, you got to play defense. And let me teach you the fundamentals of defense. And the very first thing he taught me was own the paint. If someone drives into the paint, you do not let them score the basketball. And if you foul them hard. Because it makes no sense to foul a guy and he still gets the and one. Nick, you know this.
Yeah.
And I know you've been covering this guy. I already said that. But this, to me, is classic NBA basketball. You go back to the Pistons and the Bulls back in the day. What is this? Tell me. Let's pull
it's
up
not
film.
That league.
Tell me what this
it's
is.
It's not that league anymore. That's 30 years ago, Brandon. That's 30. The league has.
This is Michael Jordan.
The league
this is the best
changed. That's great. The league's changed. It's not what the league is anymore. Of course, you used to have goons, Bill Laimbeer and such. That's not, and the league's better because that is gone. And Marcus Morris in Game 1 put Luke in a headlock and Kristaps got thrown out. In Game 5, targets his ankle from 30 feet away. And in Game 6, gets tossed, not for a hard foul, for after the play, whacking him on the head. Like, we know what it is, Brandon.
Look at this.
That's not a hard playoff foul. That's a dirty play by a dirty player.
About the guy's not bleeding. He doesn't have any black and blue marks. He has nothing swelling. I think what I really think it is because there's so much attention around the bubble right now and their players. They're officiating too tough. This is just regular basketball. This is fundamentals. You can ask any basketball player, they're going to tell you this is what basketball is.
Wilds, where do you fall on this?
I mean, I love Marcus Morris. He's become first-team All-Kevin Wilds right alongside of Joakim Noah. But I just love. I love this. I love the story within a story. If I could have changed one thing, Jenna. Just when he stepped on his ankle in the previous game, he ran over and picked up his shoe and tried to help Luka. I wish he would have done this here. Because this time he slaps him around the neck and then he stares him down a little bit. I think he should have done the faux pickup and be like, what? I like that Marcus Morris a little bit better.
Oh, let me give
Hurt you and faux helping. That's my favorite Marcus Morris.
Two things just very quickly. One is, anyone still arguing that what he did in Game 5 was an accident, I feel like this gravely hurts your case. Okay, I think you look crazy. And second of all, you can love him, Wilds, and Brandon, you can say this is great playoff basketball. You know what the Clippers aren't going to like? If they make the conference finals, when he misses a game, because he's now got 2 flagrant foul points, 2 more, and he is suspended a game. And if you think he can control this, then you're watching a different player than me. So it's all fun and games. So Nick, he will miss a game this postseason if they advance to the conference.
Nick, he doesn't have to do it.
I'll save it for later in the show. I'll save it for later in the show, everybody.
Well, Doc defended him, too. All right, again, Clippers moving on after beating Dallas. Lakers moving on as well. We assess their title chances next. First things first.
Swish. Smooth.
It is the inspiring story of Alabama's quarterback sensation, Tua Tagovailoa. He fights to overcome a potential career-ending injury while chasing his destiny to the NFL. Watch Tua Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Fox. That looks incredible. Back talking basketball now. Lakers, Blazers, Game 5. No Dame for Portland. No worries for L.A. A playoff high 43 points for Anthony Davis. For LeBron, 36-10 and 10. And the Lakers are moving on. First playoff series win for them since 2012. They now await the winner of Rockets Thunder, which we will talk about a little later. But Nick, what impressed you most about the Lakers in Game 5?
Yeah, I mean, Jenna, you alluded to it off the top of the show. It's one thing to win a series, another thing to win a series in 5 when you're clearly the massive underdog. And given the conversation surrounding the Lakers going into this series and after Game 1, I mean, they were the obvious and clear underdog. I mean, I shared a video this weekend that has some of my closest friends, some of the best sports commentators, and Paul Pierce on it, all explaining the structural advantages that the Portland Trailblazers had over the Lakers. We got the great Emmanuel Acho saying they have a better roster. You got Stephen A. saying it'll go 7. He won't pick the Blazers to win, but it'll go 7. You got Coward picking the Blazers. My friend Adam Shine saying the Blazers got better starting 5. So I'm amazed the Lakers were able to do it. It turns out having the best player in the world and the best big man in the world is a really good structural advantage going into the postseason. And it turns out, Brandon, that people were writing LeBron James' playoff obituary a little too quickly after a mediocre Game 2 where they won by 30 points. Listen, the scrappy underdog Lakers continue to impress. Who knows when this Cinderella ride will end for them, Brandon? But I'm enjoying it, watching them along the way.
Wow, I mean, this team, this underdog team, they're playing amazing. And there's a few things that stand out to me. Number one is AD. He's been overshadowed by so many different headlines. LeBron on the court, LeBron off the court. Yeah. I mean, this guy just dropped 43 points, and he makes everything looks easy. And it's similar storylines coming out of, the Clippers locker room where we're talking about everything else besides the guys who are making the biggest impact on the court. So that's number one. The second thing that stood out to me was this was the team and this was the person LeBron James wanted. They waited patiently for AD. And there was two big questions that everyone had. Number one was, will AD actually come to LA? And number two, how would they gel? And I think Saturday we saw their chemistry on full display. And it reminded me of the old days, Stockton Malone. Now, I was a little baby back in the days, but I remember Stockton Malone in that pick and roll. I remember how they worked well off of each other. LeBron James, we talk about it all the time, his genius. And we say, what does that mean? He's as smart as Magic Johnson. He's as smart as Stockton. But what does that mean? Look at how he controls the ball and how he spaces out the court. He's great with his timing. Look at this play coming up here next, right? To the average person like myself, you would think that it's all about, it was a breakdown in defense. No, he backs up, he waits for the timing, the spacing, and then he goes to the basket. Easy.
It's a great point.
This is classic LeBron James, genius in clear view. Unbelievable.
I agree with 97.25. 68% of that. 0.2568% of that. The seal screen is a legal play. And I know the Celtics do it a lot. You'd be like, wow, do you know what I mean? I know the Celtics do it a lot. But if we could run it back,
if you start, hold on. I'm vetoing. I'm Wilds. You have been, you've done everything short of buy real estate in Portland. If you start this by talking about the legality of seal screens rather than owning your Portland travesty of the last month, I might walk off the set. No. If you start talking about moving screens instead of your beloved Portland Trailblazers and Melo and Dame and CJ and Nurkic is healthy and your stupid prediction box you'd never open, you got to own that they got whooped by 60 points in games 2 through 5, that it was never in doubt. That's what you need to talk about here, not the legalities of seal screens.
Wilds.
Go ahead, Wilds.
Okay, I will address that. I will address the Blazers. Final thing on this seal screen. The reason why Brandon likes it is because it looks like a football play, JaVale McGee tackling him. But now you're right, it is a good play. Wrong sport, but I understand why you would like it, Brandon.
Look at this. Look at the
Blazers. Genius.
The Blazers.
Bill Belichick loves it. Okay, the Blazers.
Yes.
The Blazers. I was just in a rental car of my Blazers fandom, and I returned it to Hertz, and they said, how was it? I said, you know what? It started off running great, and then it ran out of gas, and it's got a few bumps and bruises on it, to be honest with you. And that'll tell you something else, Mr. Hertz. Not Jalen Hurts. I'm talking about the Hertz rental car imagination guy. I don't know if this team can win. And everyone seems very happy, and they fought valiantly in the bubble, and Dame was obviously awesome. But I don't know what happens to this team. We know
here.
We know the Warriors are going to be back. So take a pen or a pencil the Warriors in. Are the Suns going to be good? Are the Timberwolves going to be good?
This is so exciting.
Are the Spurs going to be good?
Well,
no, but like, what do they do?
Brett
Brown's getting fired.
This is so exciting. I'll tell you. Hold on, Wilds. I'll tell you what they're going to do. Because, you know, it was all good just a week ago when this was the narrative. When healthy, the Blazers are a 3 or a 4 seed. Well, so go into next year healthy. Be a 3 or a 4 seed. That's it, right? Now, see, this happened. I can't believe it's actually happening in real time. It goes from the LeBron and the Lakers should be scared, or LeBron and whatever team he's on should be scared, to the moment playoff LeBron nukes them, you know what? That team might suck. Might need to blow it up. Fire the coach. Trade CJ. I don't even know if they're a playoff team next year. You can't do this.
They're not.
It is unbelievable, Brandon, what's happening.
You say they have nothing?
The Blazers were the trendy, sexy team. They presented all these matchup problems. When Nurkic is out there, they're a totally different team. And now it's like, you know what? I think they might be the 8 seed if they're lucky next year. Of course this is where it goes. Of course, folks are going to pretend they were not riding the Blazers bandwagon. Brandon, you weren't here yet, but Wilds used a car analogy. After game 1, he used a different car analogy. That was the Lakers are a car in your yard on cinder blocks with no tires.
So this is the thing with Wilds. So this is the thing with Wilds.
They're blowing a team up, Brandon.
Go ahead, Brandon.
So this is the thing with Wilds. You like to use these car analogies. What's going on, Wilds?
Well, we're presented by Dodge Ram, so I try to bring in a lot of Dodge Ram, but only when the Dodge Ram is good. Every other car is terrible. No, look, I said the Blazers were dangerous, and there's more on that later in the show.
With the Blazers take.
It's so outrageous.
Lakers moving on after that gentleman's sweep. Take a turn, talk some football on the other side next. First things first. Oh, Wilds.
Hey guys, Juju Smith-Schuster here. Probably weird to hear me on this podcast thing when you're used to seeing me do my thing on the field. Football's a huge part of my life, but there's another thing I love, and that's lounging. And there's only one way to do it, while wearing MeUndies, baby. I love MeUndies because they're just comfortable overall. I've never had an underwear where I can wear it throughout the day and then don't even have to go change into tights to work out. I've done actual workouts in just my undies. It makes my life simple. With MeUndies, I feel like you can pretty much do everything to make all sorts of stuff. Undies, loungewear, and the best onesies. And guys, the stuff is soft, like softer than my dog Bougie's baby butt soft. After taking hits on the field all day, that softness feels like actual heaven. Sign up for their membership, as you can get undies delivered right to your door every month with all sorts of perks, site-wide sales, free shipping, and seriously, did I mention their onesies? It's like zipping up happiness all over your body. MeUndies has a great offer for all of you guys. First-time purchases get 50% off and free shipping. Go to MeUndies.com/sports. That's MeUndies.com/sports.
Time for No Huddle starting in Philly. Carson Wentz held out of the Eagles scrimmage Sunday with a soft tissue injury. Philly reportedly being very cautious to ensure that their signal caller is ready for week 1. All right, Brandon, you sound a little surprised. Should Eagles fans be concerned given Carson Wentz's injury history here?
Hell yeah, they should be concerned. I mean, how do you have a soft tissue issue? I can't even say it. Coming out of this long offseason as a player, you embrace this. You get an opportunity to recover and really build up your body the right way. If you check out this kid's injury history, it's really concerning. Now, injury is a part of sport. It's inevitable, especially when you look at football players. But go back to 2015. This is unbelievable, you know, because when you look around the league, you got the Russell Wilsons of the quarterback position. You got Eli Manning, you got Brett Favre, and these guys did a tremendous job of sticking and standing upright. Carson Wentz, man, it makes me wonder how long he has to go, and it makes me even think about Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was beat down mentally. Andrew Luck was beat down physically, and then he ended up walking away from the game. Now, I'm not trying to go there right now, but this quarterback has been beaten and brutalized for a very long time. It's time for them to figure this out.
Okay. I'm going to say this is not a big deal, Nick. And I understand that Carson's had a few injury issues, but, like, You know, previous results do not guarantee future success. Like, just because he was injured doesn't mean this minor soft tissue injury, which all of a sudden I, as a sports commentator, am qualified to analyze. I'm just not going to say this is a big deal. It's not Jalen time.
Okay, well,
Manning
with
never missed a
respect to
practice.
what you're saying, Wilds, and our resident Eagles fan, Dustin Waite, who's a great statistician but is just blind on this topic because he wrote on my stat sheet today, I think this is a fake news story. You both don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, there's 32 teams in the league. There's 32 teams in the league. How many quarterbacks are dealing with an injury, missing practice? Best I can tell, it's one. And it's the one who has had trouble finishing seasons dating back to his second year in the league because of injury. Going into training camp, if you were to say to the Philadelphia Eagles, two guys you don't want to see miss time early, the first two names that would be listed are their quarterback and their first-round pick. Both are now out. Jalen Reagor got hurt in the same practice Carson Wentz missed.
Right. Yep.
And so, yeah, this is a concern. It's just, it's not, I don't think a soft tissue injury, you write off the season, but it's clearly a
minor
concern.
Soft tissue injury. Minor soft tissue injury.
Hey, look, we seem to be having the same conversation every year about Carson. On to Dallas now.
Like how you call it a tissue issue.
It's a tissue issue. It's exactly what it is. It's a tissue issue. The head coach, Mike McCarthy, I get that throughout the entire winter. Yeah, winter tissue issues. Mike McCarthy's getting Dak and all of his weapons up to speed. Wide receiver Michael Gallup, excited about the things that McCarthy is doing. Listen to this, guys. He said, quote, McCarthy wants us to have a good time while we're out there, make sure we're having fun, you know, just a different variety of things that he does that we haven't had there in the past. That's been good for us. I don't know, kind of sounds like a knock on Jason Garrett. Brendan, how much of an upgrade will McCarthy be over Jason Garrett this season?
Big time. I think it was long overdue. You know, when you hear these things, and I say it all the time, you really got to pay attention to these guys in the press conferences, whether it's player or coach. They tell us a lot of things. When I actually dove deeper into this story, I heard a lot of things come out like it's a breath of fresh air. I heard a lot of things like Coach Garrett was a master of the message, but not real communication. He used signs, he used T-shirts to really communicate with the guys. He was too professional. So I think that the guys are really embracing this because they knew that Coach Garrett was probably there 2 or 3 years too long. So I'm excited with Coach McCarthy being there and taking over the reins. But he should do a good job. I mean, this guy sat in Appleton, Wisconsin in his barn for a year. He didn't take a year off. He sat there and he studied. He studied what was working, what wasn't working in Green Bay. He studied head coaches around the league. He studied players. He studied schemes. The only thing that I'm concerned about is his predictable offense. If this guy can come in with a few new wrinkles, we were looking at a Dallas Cowboys team that could potentially contend, and now we're talking about a team that is actually winning games and not this whole America's team and Dallas Cowboys. Let's talk about these guys all the time.
And we'll apparently have
Just
fun
get
in the
over it.
process.
Let's start winning some games. Oh, my goodness, win some games.
Brandon, I had a question for you. One, I think the Mike McCarthy in his barn watching every snap is not true. And I think he kind of admitted it. I think every once in a while he jumped on Netflix and watched, what is that called when you destroy the cakes? And like, what's it called? What's that show called, Jenna, when you destroy the cakes?
Boss?
Whatever it's called.
I don't know.
Made it? Anyways.
Made it.
All right, Brandon.
Coach Garrett wasn't watching any Made It. Coach, man,
Yeah, he
come
did.
on.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it.
Coach.
Nailed it. Nailed it is the name of the...
Nailed it. There it
Anyways.
is.
Well, there's 12
Brandon,
seconds.
when Michael Gallup talks about having fun, is that an actual, like, I know I would want to have fun if I was on the Cowboys, but does that actually have a tangible benefit in the real season, having fun in practice?
It does, because the makeup of the guy, the mentality of the player is different now. When I first got in the NFL, it was all about business. 8 o'clock team meeting. Coach Shanahan walked in that meeting. Hey, guys, this is the objective of today. Today is third down. Today is red zone. We went into our segment meetings, and we dove deeper into that game plan. Now it's about entertainment. These guys have a different mentality. If you don't have music playing for these guys when you walk in, if you're not showing some type of hype video, some cool message on the video board, Pete Carroll shooting hoops, competing before, like, you lose the guy. And it really has everything to do with the makeup of these kids coming out of college today. I witnessed it going from the Jets to the Giants. I was in shock walking into the New York Giants meeting room and music being blasted, Odell dancing, Sterling Shepard dancing. I said, what the hell is going on here? Is this football or is this an entertainment show? But this is the new football. So I think these guys are embracing it and they're loving it. And Coach McCarthy obviously did a great job in Appleton, Wisconsin, in his barn, figuring out what guys like.
Yeah. All right, so two quick things. One is during the commercial break, I said off air, listen, we got to make sure Wilds doesn't get cut off again. I felt bad. He's gotten cut off the last 2 segments. And then he spent 40 seconds there trying to search for the name of a single Netflix show. So now I totally endorse cutting him off every time the rest of the show. Like, you had your chance, and instead, you're like, there's literally 30,000 shows. You're like, what's the cake one? It was ridiculous.
You should have let me do my J.R. Smith bit.
And otherwise,
you didn't like my barn take.
Second of all, and more importantly, Brandon, what you're describing is a team kind of being reinvigorated. That a message has grown stale and someone new comes in with a new approach and the same guys can be reinvigorated. That, I think, will help the Cowboys. The other thing is this. The Cowboys were 1-6 against playoff teams last year. They were 0-5 in games decided by 7 points or less. Some of that is luck. Some of that is coaching. And so if they are just better in the close games and better against their better opponents, then this team goes from 8-8, 9-7 to 11-5, 12-4, where I think they're going to fall this year. So I think this is a massive upgrade for them. I think the message grew stale, Jenna, and I think they'll be better for it.
Yeah. They had almost a decade under Jason Garrett. They needed something different. On to Baltimore now, where Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are getting ready for a Week 1 showdown with Baker and the Browns. Mark Ingram, little honesty, saying we still have strides to go to be the team we want to be. Our friends at Fox Bet don't think it's that many strides. They've got the Ravens at plus 650 to win the Super Bowl. Only the Chiefs with better odds. Hey, Brandon, what's the biggest key, you think, to Lamar and the Ravens representing the AFC in the Super Bowl this year?
Just that, the maturation of Lamar Jackson. I mean, this guy's a once-in-a-generation type player. It reminds me of Tom Brady. It reminds me of Peyton Manning. And I was trying to figure out how to describe this to you guys. And the best thing that came up was this. When we used to sit in meetings, game planning for the New England Patriots, the Indianapolis Colts, our scheme changed. Everything that we did, not only on defense, but on offense, changed. The way to stop Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, we actually changed our entire offensive scheme. We went more clock management and ball control than actually running the plays that we were used to playing, because we knew the only chance that we had was to keep the ball out of those guys' hands. And that's Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson can beat you on both ends. He can throw it, he can run it. So the only way you can stop him is keep the ball out of his hands. Trying to go into two-man, cover 2, cover 8, cover 4, cover 3, it doesn't work. He can beat you anyway, and we saw that last year. He took a step forward, being able to stand in the pocket, throw the ball, play action. Now, the next step for him is actually getting to his first and second read quicker. So everything falls on Lamar Jackson and his progression forward.
To me, the next step for Lamar is, and this sounds cliche, but it's true, can you throw the ball effectively when the other team knows you're going to throw it? Because what made Brady and Manning and Mahomes now so historically special is when you knew they were throwing it, you still couldn't stop them. That is the one kink in Lamar's armor right now. In a tie game or with the Ravens leading, when the run is a viable option, it is a nearly unstoppable offense. But when that play action threat is removed, when that run game threat is removed, they've stagnated, particularly in the postseason the last 2 years. So, Jenna, that's the key. The key is, is that the next step for Lamar? If it is, then they should be the favorites instead of the second favorites. If they get, Brandon, you disagree? That's been the one issue.
I disagree.
If you're trailing by 10,
how many touchdowns did he throw last year?
Yeah, how many of those were while
sat
leading
in the
is the
pocket
problem.
And delivered.
Oh, right, correct.
Oh,
but
my
I
goodness.
just
Listen, help our
Lamar's
guy out
great,
here.
but that's the
Help
one
our guy out
flaw.
here.
That's the one flaw. When you know he's going to pass, he hasn't been as successful.
See,
think
I'm
he
going to
answered
push
it
back
last
against
year.
the narrative that everybody figured the Ravens out. They're like, he's not going to be able to run so much. So the over-under for Lamar is 924 yards. He ran for 1,200 last year. That means he only needs to run for 56 yards on Fox Bet. You can go get it. Nick Wright's not the only one making prognostications out here. Your old friend Kevin Wildes giving you good bets on Fox Sports and good Netflix recommendations in the same segment.
Oh, my God. See, cut him
Yep.
off.
No, that
And they're
was that
just
good.
rolling off the tongue. They're rolling off the tongue, Wilds. By the way, Ravens open up against the Browns September 13th. Who's got the momentum now moving forward after what we saw this weekend? Clippers or Lakers? Next. First things first.
What was the Netflix show again?
This Sunday, it's a welterweight championship fight on Fox as the feared Yordenis Ugas takes on the heavy hands of Abel Ramos. The championship bout begins Sunday, 8 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Big hands. Back this morning talking basketball with a very happy but also very unfazed Chris Broussard. Broussard, gentlemen, has been telling us the Clippers would hit their stride, and the Clippers hit their stride, closing out the series with the Mavericks last night. Luka did his part, 38 points, but so did Kawhi. 33 and 14 as the Clippers move on to round 2. Hey, Broussard, what did Kawhi and the Clippers prove in this series, in your opinion?
I don't really think they proved anything except to maybe those doubters / haters out there like Nick Wright. I mean, they did what they were supposed to do, okay? Now, you can argue they should have taken out a 7th seed that was without its second best player for the most part in 4 or 5 games, and that's fair. But I actually think it was good that they got tested. It forced them to bring out their toughness, their physical play, their hard-nosed demeanor. Kawhi Leonard was a closer. That didn't surprise us. Here's the thing about Kawhi. Aside from his steely mentality, what makes him a great closer is that mid-range game. And I know the analytics guys like Nick hate the mid-range. But when you can get to a spot on the floor, several spots on the floor, in the mid-range, that is a huge advantage when it comes to closing games, especially when you're a guy who can also go all the way to the rim or hit the 3. But the last thing I'm going to say, what I loved last night was that they showed they've got another option to Lou Williams late in games. Reggie Jackson, with his 4 3-pointers in the fourth quarter, 12 points, if he's playing well, I'm just saying it's not. If he's playing well, you can have him in late in games because he's a better defender than Lou Williams. So if he's got it going offensively, especially if Paul George is hot, then you don't have to have Lou on the floor necessarily at the end of games. I know he's one of their closers, but you don't have to have him on the floor at the end of games, and opponents can't hunt him defensively like we've seen the Lakers do late in games against the Clippers. So that was a nice wrinkle and new development that I like.
All right, instead they'd have defensive stalwart Reggie Jackson out there. But all right, so listen. This
Better than Lou, that's all I'm saying.
Better than Lou, that is true. This really pains me because I adore Chris Broussard. I adore him so much that Stan Van Gundy came after him on Twitter this weekend, and I like Stan a lot, and I told Broussard I'll write him off. I'll just Stan Van Gundy on my enemies list if he puts in the call. That's how much I adore Chris Broussard. But everything he just said about the Clippers is infuriating. First of all, before the series, not only did I pick Clippers in 6 and Broussard said I was wrong, I gave maybe the most specific prediction anyone's ever given. I said it will be Clippers in 6, and in the fourth quarter of Game 6, it will be a close game. I will text Broussard, "Are you nervous yet?" And then the Clippers will pull away, which is exactly how this series went, despite the fact that Kristaps Porzingis played 10 quarters. There are two categories on the Clippers commentary. One is how great Kawhi was. The other is how mediocre the rest of the team was throughout this series. They had no answer for Luka, who had arguably the second best debut playoff series of anybody of the last 30 years. They had no answer for, who was Luka's best teammates for most of the series were Trey Burke, Seth Curry, pardon me, and Tim Hardaway Jr.
Seth Curry.
And it's still a 6-point game in the fourth quarter of Game 6. So Kawhi was utterly sensational, Brandon, from start to finish. Oh, and the one other thing I have to say, Chris, you've got to, you and Van Gundy and Jackson keep saying analytics folks hate the mid-range game. Not from Kawhi, not from Chris Paul, not from the guys who it's a good shot for. The mid-range shot is a bad shot for the vast majority of players. For guys such as Kawhi, a handful of guys, it's a good shot. So you got to say the analytics folks hate Kawhi's mid-range game. No, we don't. But Brandon, Kawhi was great. I don't know how otherwise you can be incredibly impressed by what the Clippers did.
Yeah, I'll be quick here because it comes down to one thing, and it comes down to Kawhi. You just said it. You know, in that fourth quarter really made me go back and do my homework, and it made me appreciate Kawhi and his presence. Not only, before we even get to the offense, I mean, we saw this guy diving on the floor. We saw this guy even getting emotional and cursing out his teammates in a good way. We saw this guy playing lights-out defense. But when you dive into the numbers, it mimics last year's championship run. He started this series with 29 points. And then he followed it up with 36, then 35, then 36, then 32, then 32, and then he closed it out with another 33. He's been overshadowed by the Paul George headlines. Him not showing up, him showing up. Luka, how awesome Luka is. I was one of those guys talking about Luka. Still will talk about Luka. And then now we just threw Marcus Morris into that mix as well. We literally have not been talking about the biggest storyline in probably the NBA playoffs. Like, this guy's been playing lights out, and it's scary to think about if Paul George can actually show up on a consistent level, and to your point, if there's other people around him that can step up and play ball, I mean, the Lakers are going to be in trouble, Nick.
Ooh.
Look, I don't think they're going to be in trouble necessarily. Maybe. Look, Paul George called Kawhi Mr. Reliable. And we know he wasn't Mr. Reliable earlier in the year, Broussard, because he likes to take some time off. But to me, no big deal, because everything got better. Points got better, rebounds got better, assists got better, field goal percentage got better, field goal attempts got better. Between that and between the New Balance and the mid-range game, he's also king of old man basketball. So to me, I have no issue, Broussard, with him taking time off or how he handled the regular season. And the proof is in the pudding that this is how he's performing now because he took all that time off.
Oof. Yeah, look, I'm not a fan of load management. And if the Clippers go ahead and win the finals like I've predicted, it could be bad for basketball because we could just see more and more load management with the top players. However, the dude is bad. And I think in Kawhi's case is legit because I do think there's some degenerative stuff going on with that knee. So I think it's legitimate, but it's not a great precedent for other players who will take advantage of it.
Broussard, I just don't where you don't because people.
Well, Nick, you know exactly, Nick, you know exactly what I was going to say. You know, I don't understand. Are we trying to entertain guys in the regular season, or are we trying to win championships?
Yes.
Like, what are we trying to accomplish?
Here's what I'd say, Brandon. If they can't play 82, if they can't play 82 games, and a lot of teams, you know, their science is saying 82 games are too much, cut the season to 65. But they want 82-game money for 65 games of play. So you can't have think about this. Or you should be able to.
So LeBron James. So how does LeBron James approach load management?
He plays 75 games every year. Yeah. Right. That's the thing. He plays 70. Like the Brandon, the load management thing is it's one guy that we're talking about. Nobody is arguing, Brandon. Everyone needs to play all 82. But missing a quarter of the season in consecutive years is bad for the league when you're that level of player.
LeBron James is like Messi. These guys, their movement on the court is very minimum. So when we talk about load management, some guys do it on the bench and some guys do it on the floor. You can look at the last five years and seeing LeBron James actually take his time on the court and pace himself. So he's just doing it in a smart way.
I agree with that entirely. Of course, you're pacing yourself throughout the season. To me, that's a huge difference from missing games. I want to, though, give Kawhi credit here before we move on for one other thing. One of my concerns with the load management and with how low minutes he was playing throughout the year was in the playoffs when they need him to play 40 minutes per, was he going to be able to? He averaged 40 minutes a game in this series. So, like, if the Clippers can get not only this efficiency out of Kawhi, but where he's only resting 7 to 8 minutes a game, that is a huge boon for them because you know the Lakers are getting that out of LeBron. So all the credit in the world to Kawhi for how he played in this first round. The rest of his teammates need to up their level of play by round 2, Jen.
All right, speaking of LeBron, we'll get to the Lakers' gentleman's sweep of the Blazers next on First Things First.
Scrappy underdog Lakers.
Back here with Chris Broussard. Let's talk some Lakers-Blazers, Game 5. No Damian Lillard for Portland. No problem for L.A. A playoff best 43 from Anthony Davis for LeBron. How about a line of 36, 10, and 10? And while the Blazers gave it all they had, it wasn't close to enough. Not when the Lakers are playing like this. Their first playoff series win since 2012. All right, Nick, what impressed you most about the Lakers in this game?
Well, I mean, Broussard, it's not often that you see upsets of this caliber in the playoffs, much less in 5. I mean, you had the Lakers, who we all know that were a totally different team after the stoppage, and you saw it in the seeding games, just couldn't shoot. LeBron got old. Anthony Davis, is he even going to sign an extension? And the Blazers were healthy. And let me remind everyone, the healthy Blazers, that's a 3 or a 4 seed. The healthy Blazers, that's the best 8 seed in the history of the NBA playoffs. The healthy Blazers are LeBron's worst nightmare. And to quote Kevin Wildes, they are the first team on I think he called it the path of destruction or something, where it was like, this could be your life, LeBron. They could be Blazers and then Rockets and then Clippers. The gauntlet of death. And so to see the Lakers, Broussard, after losing game 1, whoop the Blazers in games 2, 3, 4, and 5. I don't know who in the world could have possibly predicted that. Except, of course, me, who predicted it from the very beginning and never strayed. So, I mean, I just think the Lakers, Broussard, I don't know if this quite matches LeBron's 3-1 comeback over the 73-win Warriors, but it's got to be neck and neck for level of upsets and shocks to see LeBron James' team. So I'm really impressed by that they were able to do it.
I think Nick is mistaking me for Charles Barkley, but look, I picked him in.
Or Acho or Cowherd or any of those guys.
I think it may have gone 6. But look, Nick sat here less than 10 minutes ago and chastised the Clippers for being in a tight game in the fourth quarter with the Dallas Mavericks, who had their best player. And yet he glosses over the fact that the Lakers are tied with Portland with midway through the fourth quarter, and Damian Lillard is with his son. That was a beautiful photo he sent out, too, with his son outside of the bubble. So I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I just chuckle at how Nick...
Just real quick, Broussard, I'll let you finish. Real quick, Broussard, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish. I'll make a wager with you real quick before you finish. I will bet you $10,000 to $1 the Lakers are not tied with the Blazers at any point of Game 6, like the Clippers were. 10,000 to 1 that at any point of Game 6 they're not tied because they're dumb. Right, because there's not going to be a Game 6 because they beat them in 5. That's all. But I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet. Sorry.
Don't let him take you there, Broussard.
Yes, I'm not even going to let him get me in the weeds. I'm not going to let him. Look, I will say this, and I think Nick will agree with these 3 points. Here's what I liked about the Lakers. I'm not wildly impressed, as is Nick isn't either. I knew they beat the Blazers. But I like the fact that yesterday Anthony Davis was big in the fourth quarter. It was a tight game. He gives them 10 points in the last 7 minutes. Help LeBron close. He's got to do it consistently. Secondly, their free throw shooting. They hit 21 of 26 free throws, 82%. We know they're a bad foul shooting team. If they can just be somewhat close to 82% or consistent, that will be huge for them. So that was a good sign. And then Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. 4 of 9 from 3 yesterday, shot 40% from 3 during the series, 48% from 3 over the last 4 games. That was great because if you look at the box score yesterday, outside of LeBron and AD, no one else really gave them anything other than KCP, but KCP was consistent over the last 4 games. So KCP, if he can keep shooting, that's another good sign. They'll need someone else outside of their stars to hit shots.
Well, Wiles, I'll let you defend your Blazers. For me, you know, there's a few things that jumped out outside of that. Yeah, I'll let you do that. Number one, it was AD, another guy being overshadowed by all the other headlines. LeBron on the court, LeBron off the court. This guy goes for 43, helps close out that game. And he makes everything looks easy. There's another thing that was super impressive, right? Like, this is the guy that LeBron wanted. They patiently waited for AD. There was 2 questions, 2 big questions that we all had. One, will AD even come here? And 2, how would they gel? And Saturday night, their chemistry was on full display. And we talk about LeBron James all the time, like how smart he is. Oh, he's borderline genius when it comes to basketball. He has the brain like Kobe and Stockton and Magic. But, like, when do we see that? Like, what does that mean? I heard you for years, Chris, talk about this with other guys, you know, covering basketball and covering the Lakers and covering the Heat and all the other teams LeBron played for. But tonight, I mean, Saturday, we saw it. This reminded me of Stockton and Malone, pick and roll, you know, spacing, timing, patience, pace. Like, this guy was able to work with AD in a way that we don't see often in basketball, because now it's all about the 3. These guys can do everything. They can play defense. They can play on the perimeter. They can play in the paint. I mean, they're using old school pick and roll to beat guys. And that starts with LeBron James and his genius. This play that's coming up here, like, to the average person, basketball watcher like me, it's like, oh, that's just LeBron James, you know, taking advantage of a breakdown in defense. But when you look at it closely and you see McGee come over and pick and LeBron stop, wait for the timing and the spacing, you're like, wow, like, they really drew this up. This is basketball genius at its best right here, Chris.
Well, that didn't look like Stockton and Malone. It looked like Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks. That's the old school play there. And I know the seal screens. I'm sorry. I know that seal screen has a name for it, so all of a sudden it's a clean play. But that is eventually going to be determined to be a moving screen. The league's going to look at it eventually. Let's put that in your prediction, fishbowl from Kevin Wilds. I'm just saying, you guys know that's an illegal play.
Oh,
right,
wait, America.
Of the Blazers.
I'm sorry, Wilds, America. Broussard, Wilds finally made a Lakers-Blazers prediction. It wasn't about who's going to win the series because he's too cowardly to go with his Blazers. Instead, it was about a rule change coming in 2027. Put it in your bet book, America. Go ahead, Wilds.
No, I did not. Broussard, back me up. Jenna, back me up. I said the Blazers were dangerous. It's like swimming with the sharks is dangerous. Doesn't mean every time you jump in the water, you're going to be devoured. I'm just saying it's dangerous. It's dangerous. I didn't predict, hey, Nick, if you jump in the water, you're going to lose both legs. I'm just saying it's dangerous. Keep your eyes peeled. There's sharks in the water. That's all I'm saying about the Blazers.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
Didn't see many sharks.
Yeah, they weren't even dangerous.
Sweep them.
Yeah.
They
know
were
what they were?
dangerous.
They were dangerous for a game.
They were cute.
Broussard, you like
were
the
dangerous
Blazers.
for a
You
game.
like the Blazers. We were like Blazer buddies, you and I.
Like,
Blazer buddies.
they were cute. They were nice. They were nice for the bubble regular season. They ain't put on a show, but that's all they were.
And then it's
You want me to talk about the Blazers or the Blazers? I could go either way. I'm going to talk about the Blazers. I'm going to throw it back to Broussard. I'm not. Now you guys got me all frazzled. I would throw it back to
And who are the Blazers that show up next year
share
now?
a brain here. We're still Blazer buddies. Broussard.
I don't know if Broussard
Brett Brown got fired. The Sixers got eliminated.
Listen,
Brett Brown gets fired. Like, of course, Brett Brown's going to go blow up the team. The Blazers, they don't got it. This is not a championship team. If we know the Warriors are going to be there next year, we know the Suns are ascending. Maybe the Thunder drop down, but the West is going to be tough. And I don't know if they're a Collins sprained ankle or Trevor Ariza away from really competing. I'm a rental car Blazers fan. I returned it. So, Broussard, what do you want to do to the Blazers next year?
It was the biggest story in the bubble. Was Dame in the Blazers and Carmelo Anthony. He's back. He hit a game winner. And now all of a sudden, Dame has a dislocated finger. And now all of us forget that they actually had the best restart of anybody in the NBA. Of course, they're going to be blown out, and the Lakers are going to move on when Dame is hurt. Of course. But don't forget how awesome this story was in this whole restart. Come on, guys.
Go ahead, Broussard.
Look, Terry Stotts has done a great job there as the coach, but I fear they may have gone as far as they could with him. He's been there 7 years. Not a lot of coaches in the league that long of a tenure when they haven't gotten you much further than he has. I know one time they made the conference finals. That was kind of a strange aberration with the bracket. But I just think they've got more talent than they're showing. Offensively, they're fine. I'd like to see a few more wrinkles. But defensively, they got to get better. And I just think, look at Dwayne Casey, Nick Nurse in Toronto, Steve Kerr, Mark Jackson in Golden State. Sometimes it's time for a different voice, a different freshness to take a team to another level. Because outside of Dame and CJ, they've got talent. Whiteside, Nurkic, if you keep Melo, they got some pretty good talent.
Jenna, the best advice for the Blazers for next year is try not to play the Lakers. They do that, they got a shot. That's the advice. Try to manipulate the bracket best they can. Try not to play the Lakers or you'll blow everything up.
The winner of Rockets Thunder. That series heading to Game 7. Hey, guess what, guys? We're less than 2 weeks away from seeing Tampa Tom. We'll preview a little Saints Bucs Week 1 next. First things first.
Saints will win it.
I gotta look at it called as such. On to Super South, Tom Brady. Tom Brady now less than 2 weeks away from making his debut as the Bucs starting quarterback. And it still feels weird to say it. Bucs starting quarterback Tom Brady. Won't be weird to watch, though, as it'll be vintage Brady from everything we're hearing from coaches and teammates. And nothing like a true test right out of the gate for Brady. A matchup with Drew Brees and the Saints. Here is Tom Brady on that Week 1 challenge.
Yeah, we're going to be tested by a great football team and a team that's, been a great in this division for a long time. Coach Payton, Drew, been together. They always have a very good offense, great continuity in their organization, a defense. They're good in the, they rush the pass. They're good in the secondary, great at linebacker. They got everything. So there's not going to be any margin of error, which is why they're tough to beat, why they're always in the playoffs, always competing for Super Bowls. And I got a lot of respect for them, their program, how they run it. And, it's going to be a tough game, but we'll be excited to take the field when we do in a couple weeks.
Tom Brady with that perfect soundbite right there. All right, Brandon, I'll ask you, who's got the advantage in the NFC South? Is it Tom Brady and the Bucs? Is it Drew Brees and the Saints? They match up Week 1. Who do you got?
Saints will win a division, but Tom Brady and the Bucs will have the success in the postseason. And this is less about Tom Brady and more about Coach Payton. Now, I got crushed in the offseason, this whole offseason, by the New Orleans Saints fans when I told them that Coach Payton doesn't do a great job of preparing for the playoffs. Since that Super Bowl run, he's 4-6. He is one of the best outside of Bill Belichick in preparing himself, his staff, and his players. But for some reason, the glaring problems that they have in the regular season doesn't get fixed rolling into the postseason. Some of these games, you go back to the Rams and the Dome, it shouldn't even be that close. When you have Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and a defense that went from the bottom half to the top 5, like, how do you not win a Super Bowl? It's Super Bowl or bust for these guys, and that's their expectation. Now, I love Coach Payton. We have this thing going on. It's a little back and forth, but this is sports. This is football. We hold each other accountable, and I got to hold him accountable. He can't be off the hook for these poor performances in the postseason, towards the end of the season. Everyone knows they're just collecting data. They're taking their notes. Coach Payton, if you want to win in the postseason, you have to fix those glaring problems, those 1 or 2 problems that you have that everybody's watching and paying attention to going into the postseason.
All right, so
Kevin?
Week 1, I've never been more confused about a game. I feel like the Bucs are a movie that you know is coming out, but you haven't seen any trailers for it. You're like, is this thing good? Are we sure it's going to be good? I haven't seen any preseason. I've never even seen Tom Brady in the real jersey. You've just seen him in the creamsicle jersey. I wouldn't be shocked, Nick, if they lose by a good amount. If Brady treats this just like, I don't know, not necessarily a preseason game, but we've never seen this unit together. And I'll throw it to the bubble. We saw when it's like, we got to get kind of used to it. The idea that Tom Brady's got to go and play an established unit puts some real fear in my Brady heart, Nick.
Yeah, listen, if the Bucs are going to have any shot of winning the division, I think they have to win week 1, and I don't think they will win week 1. I agree with Brandon's analysis as far as the Bucs being the favorite in the division. The Bucs have the better coach. They have the better quarterback. They have the better top receiver, the better top running back, the better offensive line. And even though the Bucs defense, did I say the Bucs? The Saints have all these things.
No,
I don't know if I said that wrong.
Yeah.
The Saints have all these things.
Yeah.
And even though the Bucs defense was good at the end of the year, I think the Saints have the better overall defense. I think the 2 points, though, Brandon made are really interesting, and I want to kick it back to you, Brandon. One is about the Saints faltering at the end of the year. You're putting that on Sean Payton. I think the last couple years, Drew Brees has, by the last few games of the season, his play has gone from MVP level to a grade below that. I think that's hurt them. But the other point you made is you said the Bucs will have more success in the postseason. That means they're going to have to win nothing but road playoff games. If they're a wild card team, they're not going to have any home playoff games. That means going to either Green Bay or Dallas or Seattle or New Orleans, depending on how the bracket falls, and winning multiple road playoff games for a team that's won 17 games total the last 3 years, and you have almost no one who's been on the Bucs. Well, no one who's been drafted by the Bucs who's played in a playoff game. I think that is a really, really tough ask, Brandon.
It's not a tough ask. You gotta remember that there's not going to be any fans in the stands. So where is the home field advantage? And then also we got to remember that this is Tom Brady. When Tom Brady walks in this building, everyone's attention to detail rises. Everyone's energy rises. Everyone smells the greatness. They see the rings. So this team, like you said earlier, it's about continuity and chemistry. So about November, December is when they're going to hit that stride.
And I think Wild's point is a good one. No preseason for Tom Brady, so he hits that ground running. Week 1, game 1, September 13th. Another game, another run-in between Luka and Marcus Morris. We break it down next. First things first.
It's not a run-in. It's more of a drive-by.
Oh,
Luka drives.
Welcome back. Stories to start your morning this morning, beginning in Jacksonville. The Jaguars released running back Leonard Fournette this morning. The team had been trying to trade the former number 4 overall pick for months now. Couldn't find a trade partner. Nick, shocked Jacksonville released Fournette?
No, I'm not shocked, but for the Jags, you got to think back to his draft. You're sitting at number 4. Deshaun Watson is on the board. Brandon, Patrick Mahomes is on the board, but I don't think people saw this coming from him, but you did see it coming from Deshaun. And you draft a running back because you want to help Blake Bortles. Oh, my God. I'm sorry, Jags fans. And you just traded Yannick Ngakoue for a second-round pick. Jalen Ramsey's gone. Like, that AFC Championship game appearance and Miles Jack picking up that fumble that was ruled not a fumble on the field, probably swayed the game. Feels like it was 100 years ago, Brandon.
Wiles, I don't know how we follow up. That was such a great take, Nick. That was amazing. You laid that out beautifully. Here, I'm not surprised. There's more to this, and obviously more information will come out. This reminds me of my battle in Denver with Josh McDaniels when I was trying to get a new contract. And I just remember the energy in our building, our energy through our team, because we had a star player and then we had our head coach literally beefing every single day. And something was telling last week when he had that $100 bill on the back of his pads, and he made a statement saying he wants $100 million. No coach, no owner wants to see that, because in their heads it's all about football, take the business, and we'll put that to the side. So there's going to be more to come out, and I won't be surprised if there's some bad stories coming.
Nick, do you think there's any sort of sense outside of Twitter that the Jaguars are just on the Trevor Lawrence hunt?
No, the Jaguars should be, and it seemed like they're trying to be the worst team in football. Sorry for Jenna's guys, Gardner Minshew. The only thing Jenna will disagree with Brandon on, when Brandon was beefing with Josh McDaniels, Brandon was a great player. Leonard Fournette's not a great player. Yeah, it hasn't worked out for him in the NFL. Sorry, he's not a great player. I mean, he's not worth the $4 million. Not the way he's played.
Danny Ainge doesn't play for that team. On to Carmelo Anthony now. His series and his season now over. But a good run for Melo in Portland this year. Wilds, what did your guy Melo prove as a member of the Blazers?
Look, he proves he's a starter in the NBA. Now, he hurt my feelings a little bit because he said he found a home in Portland. So I want Melo to be happy, number one. But he also has a home in New York. So if he wants to come back to New York, he can call his old buddy Leon Rose and say, Leon, I'm ready to come to my other home. Because he needs to because that's where he belongs.
If he wants to come to New York, it's the Nets. If he wants to come to New York, it's the Nets and play the exact same role he just did with the Blazers.
He doesn't want to go to New York.
Be on a really good team.
He wants to stay in Portland.
Yeah, but he's staying in Portland. This is wild.
All right, moving on to the Nuggets, guys. Nuggets forcing a Game 7. Jamal Murray went off again last night. Another 50-point performance from Jamal Murray. Nuggets win 119-107. They live to see another day. Brandon, go ahead. How impressive was Jamal in this series?
This is an easy one. The star is born, and it shows that the NBA is in great shape. They have a lot of super talented young players. Game 4, 50 points. Game 5, 42. Game 6, another 50-point game. A star is born, Nick.
Listen, and your point about what great hands the NBA is in. This is the deepest the talent pool has been in the league, you could argue, ever. Wilds, we don't have time for it right now, but going into the postseason, you could make a credible case that there were 20 guys better than Jamal Murray. And now he has scored 142 points in 3 games. Like, it is unbelievable how deep the league is right now. And my Nuggets, Western Conference finalist Nuggets, staying alive. Down 3-1, got a Game 7, so the bracket is still perfect thus far. They got to win one more, Wilds.
So the other part of this is the Donovan Mitchell part of it. You know, there's only been 4 guys who have scored 50 points in a series. It's Jordan, Iverson, Donovan, and Jamal Murray, and it's happening in the same series. So this Game 7, I feel like we need to hype it from the rafters. Like this, we're going to see a historic performance. Game 7, tune in. I know it's not on Fox Sports 1. I'm giving a promo to the wrong channel, but still, it's going to be a great game, everybody.
All right, moving on to our big story this morning. For that, we welcome back in Chris Broussard. We're talking the hard foul by Marcus Morris on Luka Doncic last night.
Why is this a headline?
Morris coming over the top, fouling Luka hard. Morris ejected for hitting Luka in the head neck area. Luka talked about the play after the game. Take a listen to this.
I'm gonna say it's 2 games in a row we did something like that. And I really didn't. I hope so. The first game it wasn't on purpose, but looking back at the fall of this game, you know what I think. So I don't want to deal with that kind of players. Just move on.
Now Morris took to Instagram after the game, responded to that with a "Cry Me a River" clips in 6. Broussard back with us. What'd you make of Morris's foul and his ejection last night?
Look, I like Morris because he's a tough, hard-nosed player. You know that's one of my things I like about the Clippers. However, this ejection was justified. I thought it was a flagrant 2, which is what they called it, and he should have been gone. Look, Brandon's thinking of basketball in the 80s. And in the 80s, this wasn't even considered a hard foul, okay? But nowadays, in the kinder, gentler NBA, it was definitely a flagrant 2. The ejection was warranted. I like that my man Luka went after him. And I like that Luka went after him in the press conference post-game, too. Didn't back down. So, look, I don't think there should be a suspension going forward. I think it'd be overblown if they suspended Morris for Game 1 of the next series. Yeah. But this ejection was warranted. He had to go. And, of course, the Clippers were fine without him. Nick.
Oh, my goodness. Come on. I mean, you guys are just getting soft. This is fundamentals. I remember when I first picked up a basketball, I walked in a gymnasium in Orlando, Florida. Coach Cone pulled me to the side. He said, Brandon, I know you can shoot the three ball. Brandon, I know you can dunk. But if you want to win championships, it starts with defense. And you have to own the paint. If someone walks in the paint, you have to foul them if it's a close game or if you're trying to set the tempo. And also, if they're going up, don't just foul them hard, because it makes no sense to foul a guy and they still get the and one. So I don't understand why we are looking at this as a problem. This is the fundamentals. You have the OGs, the old heads in the 80s and 90s saying this is what basketball is. You can go back to the Bulls and the Pistons. You can go to the Bulls and the Magic. This is basketball, guys. This is basketball. Look at Michael Jordan. Did Michael Jordan complain?
That's great.
Did Michael Jordan complain?
The league, Brandon, the league's changed. And if we show clips of wide receivers going over the middle in the 80s, it looks a hell of a lot different than it does right now. Because the league
You just can't hit in the head, that's all.
Listen, we know, right. And by the way, you can't do that in basketball either. And Marcus Morris thumped him in the head. Listen, I don't have to be Thurgood Marshall to make this case. Game 1, Marcus Morris puts someone in a headlock. Who is it? Luka Doncic. Game 5, Marcus Morris runs 30 feet to step on somebody's ankle while the ball's out of bounds. Who is it? Luka Doncic. Which ankle? The injured one.
Yeah.
Game 6, Marcus Morris thumps somebody in the head. Who is it? Oh, it's Luka. Like, come on. This is hard. There is hard playoff fouls, and there is intentionally targeting the other team's best player with intent to injure because you can't guard him. And that's what Marcus Morris was doing from day 1 of the series. And his whole defense,
that's his job.
I respect the game.
That's his job.
I've never been this type of player. That was his defense in Game 5. His defense in Game 6 was, all right, you know what, jig's up. Cry me a river, clips in 6, bleep off. So at least he's no longer trying to patronizing me, Wilds, by acting like it's anything other than what it is. But I'll tell you where the Clippers are going to be upset.
You remember Wilds gave him a B+ on acting, remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
He gave him a B+ in acting.
But Wilds, I'll tell you where the Clippers are going to be upset. If Broussard is right and they make the conference finals, if their season goes that long, he's going to miss a game. There is no way he can go the entirety of the next 2 rounds and not get 2 more flagrant foul points. It's not possible. Not the way he's playing. So he's 4 points and you're suspended. He got 2 for that. He should have gotten 1, Wilds, for stepping on Luka's ankle. The league did him a favor, and then he thumps him on the head. So Wilds, like, this is going to end in a suspension for him. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I think that's a solid prediction. I can see a Draymond scenario. I wonder if the other teams will try to antagonize Marcus Morris now to get him into the flagrant foul situation.
Yeah, is it a Marcus Morris thing or a Luka thing?
Yeah, well, it's more. I think Marcus Morris will have a new assignment for the next round, whoever they're going to play. The only thing I'll push back on you, Nick, is this. I don't think he's trying to injure them. And I know it's like we're playing with semantics. I think he's trying to hurt him.
The ankle was trying to injure him.
When he fought back, he's like, I don't try to injure players. I do think you try to hurt someone, but it doesn't work. Like, Luka responded. I think we learned that, like, you can't get into Luka's head if you're a player and you hit him hard. However, and Broussard, I'm about to throw gasoline on the fire. Get ready. If you have a fire suit, you want to throw it on, I'll give you a second. Luka did something later on in the game. And I'm looking at this, and multiple announcers like, you know what? You can get thrown out for that. That's not a T. When he threw the ball back at the ref, when he had an offensive foul, that is more than a simple T. And the refs want to protect Luka. I know they're like, maybe not here. If we can run that other video, Katanic. There it is. And this is in slow motion.
That's it.
That's it. If you play that regular speed, you cannot do that. Scottie Pippen got thrown out for a game. I think Chauncey said he got thrown out for a game in this. You got to get tossed for that, Broussard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I disagree.
He's right, Broussard.
First of all, I don't think they're protecting Luka because Luka, they played very physical with Luka the entire series. And there were several times where I thought he got fouled and they didn't call it. So I don't think they're protecting him. Two, I think what he did was there's just enough, like he didn't just haul off and throw the ball at the referee. It was just enough question in there where, yeah, it's definitely a technical, but let's leave it at that. I don't think it's an ejection.
Well,
I don't think so. I really don't.
And Luka,
there was
listen,
just enough
Luka, and I think part of this is because he's been playing pro ball since he was 16. He has taken advantage of the fact that post Kristaps game 1 ejection, the last thing the refs want to do is throw him out of the game. So he's gotten a tech in nearly every single one of these games, and he's been yelling at everyone and yelling at the refs. I thought he might get thrown out right there. But again, to me, that is a young player losing his head with no risk at anybody. Brandon, first 2 points quickly on what you said earlier. One is wildly impressive that by the first time you could pick up a basketball, you were already dunking. That probably speaks to why you're one of the greatest athletes in America right now. Second point is the idea that this is all Marcus Morris is there for should be, Brandon, insult to Marcus Morris. He shot 40% from 3 with the Knicks. He's supposed to be a quality rotation player, not a hockey goon. But in this series, because he couldn't guard Luka, Brandon, he turned himself into a hockey goon.
Too much gray, guys. I mean, you guys just really made my point. You talked about, oh, well, you know, he should be thrown out. He should have been hit with a tee, a flagrant. You know, this is not good basketball. And then we see Luka do this, throw the ball at the refs, and y'all literally say Chauncey was thrown out. Pippen was thrown out. Well, I mean, what's right? What's wrong here? I mean, this guy throws the ball, and then there's like, oh, he didn't throw it hard enough, or he hit his foot, or he hit his shoelace. Look, guys, the precedent has been set. If you throw the ball at a ref, you should be ejected. The precedent was set in the 80s and the 90s that when a guy hits the paint, you play hard. So Morris, yes, was it intentional? There's no rules to playing hard basketball. The rule is he knew he was going to get a foul. He knew he was going to get a foul. It is a different game, but he knew he was going to get a foul. But do you foul him hard or do you foul him soft so he can go for the and get the and one? No, come on, guys. Like the precedent was set.
This was not a guy going up for a layup that you wrap up. Go ahead, Broussard.
All right. Listen,
you guys are soft.
Marcus Morris and the Clippers are moving on. The Lakers are moving on. Those guys are soft. Lots of things are happening. Which team, Lakers or Clippers, more primed for a title chance? I'm not soft, though, Brandon. Say it next. First things first.
Keep doing those Tabatas. No, you're not soft, and burpees and stuff.
Back here talking Clippers, Mavericks, Game 6. LA with a chance to close out the series. No Kristaps Porzingis again for Dallas, but Luka gave him everything he had in his absence. 38 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Just a great series for Luka. Wasn't enough, though, as the Clippers, behind 33 and 14 out of Kawhi, still prevailed. Clippers now move on to face the winner of the Nuggets-Jazz series in round 2. Nick, we'll start with you. What did Kawhi and the Clippers prove by closing out the Dallas Mavericks in 6 games?
Clippers proved very little. Kawhi confirmed what he's shown over the last few years, which is he is one of the most consistent and one of the scariest playoff performers in the league. And Kawhi was the one constant for this very up and down Clippers team. But just look around the league. Look at the best teams in basketball. The Lakers played the Blazers, beat them in 5. The Bucs played the Magic, beat them in 5. The Raptors played the Nets, beat them in 4. The Celtics played the Sixers, beat them in 4. And then there's the Clippers playing a team whose second best player only played 10 quarters of the series, whose best player hurt his ankle in Game 2 of the series, and it's in his first playoff series, whose rotation is Trey Burke and Seth Curry and Boban and Tim Hardaway Jr., and we're in a tight game in the 4th quarter of Game 6 before you finally pull away, despite the fact that your superstar did everything you could possibly ask him to do. And in Game 6, Kawhi even played brilliant defense for the first time all series. So in my opinion, Brandon, you got to kind of evaluate it through two prisms. The prism of Kawhi being absolutely spectacular, and the prism of the Clippers still not knowing what they're going to get from Paul George, not knowing the Jekyll or Hyde version of Reggie Jackson's going to show up, not knowing the level of intensity, and with Patrick Beverley still hurt. So, like, I was very, very impressed by Kawhi being excellent. I was less than impressed with the Clippers overall, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, that fourth quarter made me go back and do my due diligence. I mean, there's a lot of headlines throughout this bubble, and guys are being overshadowed. You know, there's the Celtics that we haven't talked much about, the Raptors, AD went for 43 points on Saturday, and he's still not talked about. And then Kawhi Leonard, that fourth quarter, and you said it, Mr. Consistent. This guy has started the series hot and ended the series hot. And it shows that he is the most consistent player in the NBA. He starts the series with 29, then he follows it up with 35, and then 36, 32, 32, and then just closes out with 33. And not only that, he's diving on the floor. He's showing great leadership, cursing out his players. We've never seen Kawhi really do that, telling players that I didn't give up the damn ball for you to do that. Like, this guy single-handedly willing his team to victory. Now, Paul George overshadowed Kawhi. Luka overshadowed Kawhi. Marcus Morris and his great defense and his toughness overshadowed Kawhi. It's time for us to put respect on this guy's name.
Great defense. In the course of this show, Marcus Morris has been the big winner. Great defense. Look, in the fourth quarter, I don't think we were ever really worried about it, Nick. I agree with Paul George after the game. Paul George said he was Mr. Reliable, and I agree. Take a listen.
Time after time, you know, whenever we needed him, he put us on his back. He finished the series. I can't say it enough. I mean, after the series, he is the most reliable guy. You know, his shot making, his time on, you know, just awareness plays. He's just one of a kind.
Thanks
Look,
for validating.
being reliable is hard to market. It's not the coolest thing in the world to be reliable, but it's a nice thing to have. And the other thing is, like, he shows up in the playoffs. Points are up, rebounds up, assists are up. He's shooting better and he's taking more shots. So when you talk about reliability, I just feel like the Clippers are in good hands when Kawhi's got the ball, Nick.
Well, 100%. And by the way, if you threw up what the numbers looked like in 2017, the year Zaza maimed him in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, I'm sure Brandon would say that was a good closeout and good defense. Or in 2019, last year, when they won the title, it's the same thing. That Kawhi goes from being like an A- level player in the regular season to an A to an A triple plus player in the postseason. And I know that brings back the load management debate. Is that, does the load management lead to that? Is that what he needs to do? I still hate the load management. I still hate it.
This.
But listen, Brandon, I have to give him credit. I don't want to do the load management thing. I just want to give Kawhi credit because Game 6 was a masterpiece. He play-made, and he's not a great playmaker. He had 5 steals, which is a massive number. And every time it felt like the Mavs were making a little run, he answered. So he was spectacular, Brandon. And I think you're right that there should be a brighter light shown on what he did in this first round.
You don't have to go to load management, but I will really quickly, all right? It's not about entertaining you guys in the regular season. It's about championships. This is what he did last year. This is what he's doing this year. And this is why these guys have an opportunity to put another ring on Kawhi's finger.
All right. Clippers now move on to face the winner of the Nuggets-Jazz series. Let's talk some Lakers-Blazers now to close out the show. Game 5 from Saturday, Blazers without Damian Lillard and thus without a real chance against the top seed in the West. Not when Anthony Davis gives you 43. Not when LeBron goes 36, 10, and 10. Lakers winning a playoff series for the first time since 2012. It's been a minute. Nick, what impressed you most about the Lakers in this game?
Well, I mean, just overcoming the adversity of being the inferior team, clearly, and being down 1-0 in the series. I want to give you 5 names, and they're 5 names everybody knows, okay? You've got Colin Cowherd, Emmanuel Acho, Adam Shine, Paul Pierce, Stephen A. Smith. Those are 4 of the best to ever do this, and Paul Pierce, all of whom either picked the Blazers to win or explained how the Blazers had a better roster, or Barkley as well. I should have included Barkley. I left out Chuck, my bad. So now we have 5 of the best to ever do it, plus Paul Pierce. So all those folks explaining how the Lakers were in trouble, the Blazers have either have a better roster or a better starting lineup. Lakers can't guard Dame. LeBron looks a little old. The shooting's terrible. Wild said they were a broken down Ford Pinto on the side of the road on fire. All these things. And then color me shocked, Brandon. Good God, that's playoff LeBron's music. And in a series that it felt like he only got his car into fourth gear a couple times.
Nick. Dame dislocated his finger. They weren't. No, they weren't.
They were down
Dame was the biggest storyline
when he dislocated his finger. They were down 35 in Game 4 when he dislocated his finger.
Are you serious?
If Dame doesn't get hurt, it changes things.
100%. The series is different. Now, do they win it? I don't know. But does it go to Game 6, Game 7? Possibly. 100%.
Oh, my God.
For me, Wiles, here's the things that jumped out for me. All right, number 1 was AD. Another guy overshadowed by all these other topics like Dame being the best player in the bubble during the restart. That's 1. Number 2, remember, this was the guy LeBron wanted. They patiently waited for AD. AD, there was two questions surrounding him. Will he come to LA? 1. And number 2, will they fit? How does this work? 2 superstars in gelling. And it speaks to LeBron's humility. It speaks to LeBron's willingness to get others involved. I thought they answered number 2 Saturday night in the second quarter. Their chemistry was on full display. We're talking about old school Stockton and Malone, the pick and roll, getting buckets in the paint, playing defense, knocking down shots on the perimeter. I thought LeBron did a magical job with the ball in his hands. We always hear about LeBron being this genius and this boy wonder when it comes to his mentality and his mindset and how he understands the game like no other. LeBron James showed that. This is Magic. This is Kobe. This is Stockton. A lot of people see that last play and think about, oh, that's a breakdown of defense. That was LeBron James patiently waiting for the defense to spread out. This was spacing. This was timing.
Oh, my God.
Oh, good tackle. No, that was McGee doing his job.
Real quick,
open field tackle.
Brandon, before we wrap up the show, Wilds, your beloved Blazers, who are a 3 or a 4 seed, win healthy, as you and everyone else said, the most dangerous 8 seed ever. Now, after seeing what LeBron did to them, you're blowing them up, right? Because this is what happens. Teams are dangerous, LeBron eviscerates them, and then we fire coaches or trade players. So are you trading CJ or are you firing Terry Stotts? What are you doing? Because I know you're doing one of them.
Stick up for your team, buddy. It's your team, buddy.
I was in a rental car Blazer fandom. Do I think this team can win a championship as currently constructed? Obviously not. Once the Warriors get back in there, too, are they content being a 4 seed, or do they really want to make a move? I've
Lakers are in trouble
I returned my Blazers
to blow
rental
up
car.
the Blazers in 2 weeks.
I'm not saying blow them up.
It's unbelievable.
I'm saying make a move.
Blow them up.
Wow.
I'm saying make a move.
All right, we got to go.